On today's show, the Hawks starters played pretty well, headlined by Trae Young, but in the end, a fifth straight loss, a narrow defeat at the hands of the Minnesota Timberwolves on the road. We'll get into how it transpired and much more, and all that is on the way.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1693 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on Friday evening into Saturday here in mid-April. And I want to encourage you at the top of the podcast to make us your first listen each and every day. And please subscribe to the podcast anywhere you find your podcasts. Of course, that includes places like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We're also on YouTube on the video side. And I should also plug, I did 2 episodes since the last time the Hawks played a game. One recapping their game on Wednesday evening at Charlotte. And then on Thursday, I did an emergency podcast on the injury timelines and updates around Jalen Johnson and Onyeka Okongwu. Not great news there. If you want more on that, that is in that podcast. It's the most recent show in our archive. But with the Hawks kind of being locked in now to the 10 seed after Chicago won on Thursday, that meant that they played a game on Friday evening that had no direct impact in the standings for Atlanta. That'll be the same on Sunday. The Hawks are, through that lens, playing out the string a little bit, but there's still stuff to sort of work on and get up to speed and prepare for Wednesday's game, have young guys play, etc. The game did matter to Minnesota, who the Hawks faced in this game. Also kind of a weird scheduling quirk where the Hawks and Wolves played only twice this year, once in October and then once on April 12th. So a long time in between games. In the end, a fifth straight loss for Atlanta by the final score of 109-106. But honestly, it was a pretty encouraging performance on the whole, in part because basically as a sort of foreshadow a little bit, the fourth quarter, much like it was on Wednesday, was kind of not a throwaway, but certainly not trying to put the foot on the floor for the Hawks in this game. We'll come back to that in a second. Injury-wise, the Hawks were actually more at full strength than I thought they were going to be coming into the night. They listed Clint Capela as questionable for rest purposes. He actually ended up playing in this one, as did DeJounte Murray, who was questionable throughout the day. Ended up, the Hawks started Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, and Bogdan Bogdanovic for the first time all year. Bogey had not started a game except for when Trae or DeJounte was out all season long until tonight. Also, the return of AJ Griffin, who had not played in an NBA game since January. He had not been in a rotation in an NBA game since November. He came back for the first time about a month after a high ankle sprain sidelined him for a while. As a roster note here, a small thing, not a hugely impactful one, but Dylan Windler, who's on a 2-way contract for the Hawks. If you missed it earlier this season, Trent Forrest had the situation where he maxed out his available games to be active for the Hawks on a 2-way contract. The same thing's happened to Dylan Windler at this point. Obviously, it's not a huge impact now because the season's almost over, but Windler is literally not available to be playing for the Hawks the rest of the season. Keep that in mind. But anyway, Minnesota was actually at full strength in this game because Karl-Anthony Towns came back after a long absence. But big picture, the Hawks were actually 12-point underdogs in this game at tip-off. It was actually as high as 14.5 or 15 earlier in the day when it was uncertain whether Capela or Murray were going to play. But again, kind of like Wednesday, it was almost 2 different games. The Hawks played a pretty normal group of players for the first 38-ish minutes in this game. And then it was the deep bench guys in crunch time against a team in Minnesota that was actually playing all of their guys. So in the end, it was Krejci and Bufkin and Gay and Griffin and Garrison Matthews and Bruno Fernando down the stretch against the likes of Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, Karl-Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert. Interesting stuff there. The Hawks actually almost stole this one despite all of that. I'll say this. Big picture, the Hawks played pretty well in this game. Despite the fact that they lost this one, they were actually winning when Trae went to the bench in the fourth quarter for the last time. So that doesn't mean that they were going to win the game, but it was certainly a good indication of how they played to that point. Offensively, they had some issues for sure, though I will say now and probably again later that the Hawks were quite good when Trae played, and at least pretty good when they had most of their real quote-unquote guys on the court in this one. But offensively, it was a little bit of a struggle. They had about a 105 offensive rating in this game. Now, I will have to say this. Minnesota is number 1 in the league in defense by a pretty decent margin, actually. So that's important context. Rudy Gobert is probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year, and he should. He's an excellent player. Edwards, McDaniels, they have great defensive personnel. So there's no shame in struggling a little bit against Minnesota's defense. The Hawks actually shot pretty well from 2-point range in this game. And only 9 of 30 from 3, which is not very good, but they were actually brutal in the first half. They were 1 of 11 from 3 in the first half. Clint Capela said post-game that he was kind of encouraging them to take more threes in the second half. They did that. They also made more of them, and that kind of helped to keep the Hawks in the game. Turnovers were kind of a big problem in the fourth quarter, which, again, was with the bench unit on the court, so adjust a little bit for that. But they had 7 giveaways in the fourth quarter that ended up kind of being pivotal in the loss. But before that, they were doing an okay job taking care of the ball. They also missed 8 free throws in the game, and that's never a good sign. In fact, Capela only missed 1 of those, but Bruno missed 3. Murray missed 2. Even Trae missed 2. So it was kind of equal opportunity. They kind of missed some that would have kind of bitten them late in the game. A pretty good balance overall offensively. It wasn't fantastic, but again, with Trae on the court, or when most of the guys that the Hawks have in their core were on the court, they scored at an adequate rate against Minnesota. Defensively, they did a really good job in this one. They held Minnesota below their season average in terms of points per possession. It helped Anthony Edwards, who is obviously a breakout star and an awesome player. He was actually pretty bad in this game. Between his foul trouble and just his struggles offensively, that hurt Minnesota and helped the Hawks in this one. But the Minnesota Timberwolves are not the greatest half-court offensive team anyway. You throw in Ant struggling, and that was beneficial. But the Hawks held them below their averages. They did shoot 10 of 37 from 3, which always helps the defense when you give up a bunch of threes and they actually miss them all. But the Hawks had fouled too much in this game. They allowed 29 free throw attempts. That's too many. But again, look, like the Hawks played their available guys for about 3 quarters, maybe a little bit over 3 quarters in this game. And they were literally up by 1 when Trae sat. The game didn't mean anything. Like I don't want to discount that, but like quite literally in the standings, it didn't have any impact at all on draft position or playoff position, any of that. But the Hawks treated the game like it was a real game for most of the way. And even then, the young guys got in the game late. Like they were actually able to play Mo Gay and AJ Griffin a lot of minutes in this game, and that's a nice benefit of not kind of having to play for right now in some ways. So, you know, on some level, they could have stolen this one. Minnesota, it would have been a pretty bad loss for, honestly, given the way the Hawks treated this game. In the end, they lose it, and that's 5 in a row. But, you know, the Hawks essentially didn't have to try to win Wednesday or tonight. So wins and losses, I get it. Like there's always a lens of some fans that's like, did they win or did they lose? That's all I care about. I get that. But right now, that doesn't actually matter. By the way, it'll be the same thing on Sunday. So just get ready for that. In fact, I will just kind of predict right now, the Hawks probably will rest even more so on Sunday, if I had to guess. Now, I could be wrong about that. We don't know that. Clint Capela is famously not going to tell you really anything about his plans for the future, but that would be my intuition based on this game. But anyway, on the whole, a perfectly fine night for the Hawks. A lot of encouraging signs, even though they lost this game close. And honestly, even if the Hawks had played all of their guys the entire game and lost by 3 points to Minnesota on the road, that would have been a pretty good result. Like no one likes to lose. But even if this game did matter and the Hawks did try all the way through, you lose a 3-point game to a team that's battling for the number 1 seed in the West, and you do it in their building and they're healthy. You can't really argue too much with that in the big picture. All right, we'll have more coming up on this game as far as how it unfolded, as well as my player evaluations at the end of the podcast, etc. But first, a word from our friends at Stitch Fix. At Stitch Fix, you actually get a stylist that understands your style, your size, and your budget, and they do all the shopping for you. That makes it the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. You actually get just the preferences to your stylists on that budget, on that style, on that size, and then they can actually order boxes when you want to, how you want to, with no subscription required. They send you 5 just for you pieces, plus recommendations for your outfits and pro styling advice. You keep what works for you and send back the rest. And they always just send the right pieces to you, and the fit is always on point. They make it all so easy for you as well. Personally, I don't really love the shopping process, and they save that time and effort for me. Plus, the outfits that you get actually make you look good and feel good. If you don't love something, just send it back to them. And they have shipping, returns, and exchanges. They're always free at Stitch Fix. They give you a style that makes you feel as good as you look. And you can start it right now today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. One more time. That is stitchfix.com/lockedon. Today's show is brought to you by eBay Motors, and passion, drive, and patience are what break on the winning trophy, and that's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors actually has everything you're looking for to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance. They have roof racks and exhaust kits and superchargers, LED headlights, and many more things beyond that. Whether it's you're actually into speed or power or style, you're always covered at eBay Motors, and they have over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, and you'll always find what you're looking for exactly when you're looking for it at eBay Motors. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, you're also guaranteed to have that part fit your ride every time, the first time, again, every single time, or your money back. Because at eBay Motors, you're burning rubber. And crucially, you are not burning any cash whatsoever. With all the parts that you need at the price that you're looking for, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win that you are seeking. Keep your ride or die alive right now at ebaymotors.com. One more time, the place to go is ebaymotors.com. eBay Guarantee Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Okay, we'll dig in now to how this game kind of unfolded from start to finish. And the Hawks actually started this game really well. They had 7 points in the first 4 possessions. They had the lead early on. It was the first time that Trae and DeJounte had played on the court together in almost 2 months. It was February 23rd. And before that, it was All-Star break. So basically one time in the last 2 months, and it had been 7 weeks ago, basically. So that was kind of the real reason that Murray even played, if I had to guess. Like, he was questionable coming in. He's not like unable to play, but he's a little bit banged up, obviously. But really, the only reason to really play anybody in this game was, A, the Hawks have some roster constraints right now with a bunch of guys who were actually injured. You have to have enough players to fill out the minutes in the game. When you have 5 injuries plus an ineligible player in Windler, somebody's got to play. But also, because Trae was out so long, there's some value in just having guys play together, and Trae and DeJounte obviously at the top of that list. Lots of foul trouble in this game. In fact, Hunter had 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes, and normally you take him out of the game there. Especially because right now he's really the only power forward they trust. And they had Mo Gay playing, and I like Mo Gay quite a bit. But like, as far as like proven rotation pieces, Hunter's the only like bigger forward they have right now. But I think Quinn did the right thing in not benching Hunter, because essentially the entire point again is to have these guys play together. So with the game not really mattering, the quote unquote foul trouble doesn't really mean that much. So Quinn, I think, figured that out and didn't take him out of the game. The starters early and often in this game were really positive. They were actually +5 in their first stint together. They went to Garrison and Fernando as the first subs as usual, but also to Mo Gay. Mo had foul trouble as well. He was kind of showing his inexperience a little bit. Nice flashes from Mo Gay all the way through this game, but certainly had some rookie moments along the way. And then AJ Griffin came into the game for really the first time in the rotation in quite some time. He had some moments for sure, but he was in the rotation firmly in this game as they try to kind of emphasize that. It was a bit of a surprise that they did not play Vit Krejci until the fourth quarter. He has been in the rotation every night for 6 weeks or so. I know it's kind of been a weird run for Vit, because essentially he went from not playing ever to immediately starting and playing a bunch of minutes. And as I'm sure I'll plug again later on, I've talked about this twice now on the podcast, but if you missed anything, Vit also has a contract situation going on right now where the Hawks are going to have to decide literally between now and Sunday whether they're going to convert him or sign him to a new contract. Because if he's not signed to a new contract, he cannot play on Wednesday. But anyway, throw all that out for a second. I think if the game had mattered, he would have played over guys like Mo Gay and AJ Griffin. But I think he's also been playing a lot of minutes, and foreshadowing a little bit to Sunday. Again, this is me guessing a little bit. I think guys like Vit and Kobe Buffkin are going to have to play a lot of minutes on Sunday, and they might want to kind of take it easy on those guys today. Just my guess. Anyway, Vit didn't play. The Hawks were actually up 2 at the end of the first quarter. The bench minutes were a little bit dicey the entire way. Basically, every time Trae sat, they got walloped a little bit in this game. The Wolves had their first big run in the second quarter, actually a 17-3 run to go up by double digits. And that happened literally as soon as Trae went to the bench. The Hawks scored 1 point in about 4.5 minutes in that stretch. It was pretty rough. Lots of fouls. I mentioned this once before, but the Hawks ended this game with 25 personal fouls. They had 13 fouls in the first 16 minutes of this game. And for some context, they only averaged 19 fouls a game. So they had about 3/4 of their fouls on average in the first quarter and a half of this game. Now, they were playing pretty aggressively. Actually, DeJounte had a good defensive moment in the first half when he actually had a nice play where he forced a miss on Anthony Edwards in transition. Not always an easy thing to do. Ant is a physical marvel, so that was a good play by DeJounte. They were definitely over-eager sometimes. Also, I thought the officiating was a little bit tight in the first half, alas. The Hawks didn't make a 3 in the entire first half until Bogey finally made one, and that actually kept Bogey's streak alive. He's now made a 3 in 89 straight games. That's a lot. It's a top 10 mark all time. The Hawks were down by 9 at the halftime break. And hilariously, they were -17 with Trae off the floor and +8 with Trae on the court. That'll come back up later on in the podcast. But they, again, shot 1 of 11 from 3, and they were kind of still in the game, which is probably a good sign overall, even with some bench minutes that were less than ideal, let's say. After they made 1 3 in the whole first half, they made 2 threes right away in the third quarter. Hunter hit 1, Bogey hit 1. They had kind of a bad swing, unfortunately, in the third quarter where they missed an open 3, and then Hunter got a rebound, tried to pump fake, and then got blocked by Rudy Gobert. It led to a 3 by Minnesota and put the Hawks down by 17 points with 6.5 minutes to go in the third quarter. And I got to say, I thought the Hawks were probably going to get blown out from there because they didn't have much to play for. But true to Hawks fashion, all year long, as far as maddening as the season has been in some respects, they consistently don't roll over. And they didn't in this game. In fact, from that point forward, they had a 21-4 run to tie the game at the end of the third quarter. So they closed on a 21-4 run over about 6 minutes. Capela had an awesome stretch there where he had 5 rebounds, a nice block on Naz Reid, 2 buckets, and a drawn charge in about 3-4 minutes. He was really good in that stretch. Also, the Hawks made some threes, which is always helpful. 4 of them, including 2 in a row by Trae. The Wolves also committed one of the dumbest fouls I've ever seen. They were in the bonus already with 1 second left. Capela got a rebound on Minnesota's side of the floor. Capela gets the rebound. They fouled him 90 feet from the basket with 1 second left. It only cost them 1 point because Capela missed one of the free throws, but just a crazy poor decision by a team that's supposed to be trying to play for something. But in the end, there you go. But Minnesota couldn't make a shot in the third, and the Hawks did make finally some shots from 3, so they won that quarter by 9 points, including that big run in the third. If you recall, on Wednesday, the Hawks completely punted after 3 quarters. Tonight it was a little bit different. They actually left Trae and Bogey into the game to begin the fourth quarter, and actually took their first lead in the second half off the Trae bucket in the fourth quarter. He drew a charge as well. Also, by the way, I would describe the shot that Trae made for the lead as like a floater from 3-point range. Not a shot you see every day. I'm sure you can find it on social media if you haven't seen the play, but it was basically a floater motion from 25 feet. He made it. There you go. Awesome play. Anyway, it landed up by 1 point, and that was basically the end of the night for the key guys. So Trae came out, Bogey came out a few possessions later, and from there, Capela never came back in. Neither did Hunter. So they capped the minutes there, and it was Kobe and Veit came in for the first time at that point in time. Minnesota immediately went and took the lead, and I thought, okay, that's probably going to be it. But again, to their credit, Hawks had a nice 7-0 run. Veit had a couple nice plays in a row. It was actually a Veit revenge game. He was actually in camp with the Wolves this year and then played the G League a little bit for Iowa, which Minnesota is their affiliate. The Hawks closed the game with Kobe, Garrison, Veit Krejci, Mo Gay, and Bruno Fernando. They played AJ a little bit as well with that group, but they ended up closing with Garrison. The Hawks actually had the lead a couple times late in the game. I won't give you the whole play-by-play, but counted a 3 for the lead. Veit got blocked by Rudy, put the Hawks down by 3 points. But then the Hawks got back within 1, actually, after Kobe had a nice left-hand drive. And Edwards missed a bad 3. Actually, Kobe did a good job on him late in the game, I will say. But the Hawks had the ball down 1 with about a minute and a half to go. They had a pretty rough possession where Bruno had to kind of bail them out with a one-on-one against Rudy Gobert. Not what you want there. He ended up missing that. And then Edwards hit a jump shot over Kobe to put the Hawks down by 3 points. Out of a timeout, under a minute to go, Veit turned the ball over. That was unlucky because it wasn't ruled a turnover right away. It was ruled out of bounds off Minnesota. The Wolves challenged it and won the challenge. Number one, I didn't see the evidence to overturn that call. I think it probably was off of Veit, but the crucial thing there is that Veit got fouled, and they didn't. It's kind of hard to overturn that. It's one of the problems with the review system. But just a bad beat there for Veit, basically. Anyway, so they didn't have to foul. Actually, down 3 with under a minute to go, Kobe had a great plan. Edwards gets a steal, leads to a dunk by Bruno in transition. Then they had to foul. They foul Edwards. He makes both. And the Hawks basically had one more chance. Down 3 with about 18 seconds to go. Veit got a decent look at a 3 for the tie, coming off of a curl, misses it. They foul Gobert. That's the right guy to foul, but he misses. He made both, and that was kind of the end of the game. There was a small bit of hope when Kyle Anderson missed 2 free throws at the end of the game, but then it was tapped around, and that was all that. So, in the end, the Hawks were in it all the way down. In fact, they never trailed by more than 5, I don't think, in the fourth quarter, and it was within 3 the entire crunch time. And one more time, they were playing with their 2.5 second unit plus against Minnesota starters. So to not get blown out there was actually pretty impressive, especially ice cold Kobe and Veit hadn't played all night long. So they battled all the way to the end. Minnesota steals the win. They're now 30-10 at home this year, and they have 56 victories. That's a good team, obviously. And the Hawks are right there on the doorstep the entire way. All right, we'll get into the player stuff in a moment. But first, a word from our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. It's playoff time in the NBA and the NHL. Plus, baseball's been in full swing. FanDuel Sportsbook is the #1 sportsbook in America. It's also the place to be for each and every game. And right now, if you're a new customer, get $150 in terms of dollars in bonus bets guaranteed. It's $150. You can use to bet on hoops and baseball and hockey and so much more. Bet on all of your favorite players in basketball, baseball, etc. with quick bets, live game parlays, exclusive props, and much more. The app is so easy to use. They have everything you're looking for in the sports betting space, from over-unders to money lines, player props, future bets, and much more. The app is safe, it's secure, and they cover the entire range of sports as well. FanDuel has the NBA and football, of course, when that's in season, MLB, college baseball, golf, tennis, soccer, auto racing, boxing, MMA, and much more, plus future stuff always open at FanDuel. And now is an awesome time to sign up with the folks at FanDuel Sportsbook, and the place to go is FanDuel.com/lockedon. One more time, just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Okay, and to the player evaluation stuff in this game. We'll start with Veet and Kobe, who played only in the fourth quarter. I thought Buckland played very well, actually. 6 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds for Kobe, 3 or 5 from the floor. Offensively, obviously, it's a drop-off from Trae and DeJounte Kobe. Breaking news. He's a rookie guard. But the defensive side of the floor was really encouraging. He actually did a good job on Edwards. A couple nice mismatch hunting plays on offense. So I thought he played well in a small stint off the bench. Veet had a nice stretch when he first checked into the game. Cooled off after that, but had 5 points and 2 assists. One note here before we move on. Again, I've mentioned this before, but the Hawks only have about a day and a half now to sign Veet to a full contract. If you want more details on that, I've done that whole thing about 2.5 times on this podcast, including on the emergency show yesterday. So if you want more details on that, it's like 5 minutes or so at the end of the podcast about Veet and contract stuff and Trent Forrest and all of that. Stay tuned. We'll have more on that if we need to on Sunday. From there to the 9 guys who played the rest of the way before the fourth quarter, AJ Griffin returns to the lineup in this game for the first time in a long time. 3 points, 4 rebounds, and an assist. He was a little bit shy, I would say, in this game. I thought he looked okay to me. He hadn't played basketball. He had a high ankle sprain. I know for a lot of the season, he had just been out of the rotation, healthy. He's not been healthy. He actually he had a pretty severe high ankle sprain for a month plus. So that's why he hasn't been playing recently. I thought it was a good idea to play him in this game, just kind of get him some minutes. I think that obviously he won't play in the play-in if I had to guess, but I thought he made a 3, he had 4 rebounds, and defensively he at least looked like he was okay, moving well. So good signs from him. I still think that there is a future for AJ and a bright one. It's been kind of a lost season, of course, for him, but he's still a talented guy, and circle that for the future. Mo Gay, 2 points, 5 rebounds, an assist and a steal for Mo, 4 fouls, 21 minutes. He was actually 0 of 2 on threes, 1 of 3 on twos. Certainly, you could see the tools from Mo Gay. I thought he gave them good energy and good just force in this one. He's huge, number one, 6'11" or so. He's really fast in a straight line, athletic. He's also very raw. You see that on the court sometimes. Like, he just makes rookie mistakes, and it is what it is. I still like Mo quite a bit. It's just that he's not quite ready for prime time, but that's okay. That is a reasonable thing to have happen after kind of a injury-plagued season for him as well. Bruno, 14 points, 5 rebounds in 22 minutes. Highs and lows for Bruno in this game. I don't think he was bad, but he had some rough moments, and he also had some good finishes around the rim. And it was kind of a Bruno game in some ways. Offensively, he was certainly good and sort of finishing around the rim, but fouls on defense, breakdowns on defense, etc. Garrison had kind of a cold game. He was 0-4 from the floor, just as he sort of rose to the top of the 3-point leaderboard in the NBA. He's kind of gone a little bit cold the last couple games, but I thought he was fine besides that in this one. To the starters. And I mentioned before, the starting lineup was basically good in this game. Now, they were not all in the positive plus-minus wise, but when they played together, the results were positive in both halves. DeJounte kind of had probably this game that I would say struggled the most. He was 5 of 11 on twos and 0 of 3 on threes. Missed 2 free throws in this game, 12 points, 4 assists, 5 rebounds. He was fine, but not his best, I didn't think. Kind of uneven, not the most inspired effort from him, generally speaking, but he was okay. He actually played the most minutes, which I don't really understand. I would have been a good idea to kind of keep it easy on him minutes-wise. He's been playing a ton and carrying a massive workload for a month plus with Trae out. So I understood him playing because he wants to play. You want to have him play with Trae some before a winner-go-home game on Wednesday, but he was not his best in this game. Elsewhere, Bogey was also a -5, as was DeJounte, but Bogey was 17 points, 2 of 4 from 3, 3 of 6 on twos, 5 of 5 at the free throw line. I thought Bogey was pretty good in this game on the whole, kind of a typical Bogey game. I still believe it. Actually, I've been encouraged by this. Some national folks, I think Tim Bontemps, Zach Lowe, a couple others have mentioned Bogey as like a real 6 Man of the Year candidate. I've been yelling that for quite some time. I don't understand why he's not maybe the leader in that category. He should be for me. I think that hopefully people kind of notice when they do their deeper dives as voters in the next week or so that he's probably the best candidate for that award. I don't know if he's going to win it, but he should be a real contender there. And that sort of was buoyed by, again, today, more shot making, etc. DeAndre Hunter Wasn't awesome either. 15 points, didn't do a lot efficiency-wise, only 3 of 8 on twos, 2 of 6 on threes. He was not my favorite DeAndre Hunter performance in this game, but still had 4 fouls, like settled in after some foul trouble early on in the game. Defensively, has done a good job. I was going through some numbers today. It's actually ironic, like it's pretty intuitive, but when the Hawks have had Hunter and Capela on the court at the same time, like when they've actually played in the same game, they're over 500 this year. Now, that's not a huge jump, but essentially they are 2 of their better defenders, and when those guys play, the defense is better, and that's very natural. But anyway, speaking of Clint Capela, I thought Clint was very good, especially in the third quarter, but even overall, 13 points, 11 rebounds, had a block, had a steal, 3 assists for Clint, 1 turnover, 6 away from the floor. Like, he was really good, honestly. And I know that, like, I'm always accused of being too high on him. I understand that. He's been playing very well for about 2 months now. So there you have it. And then Trae Young was very good. It baffles me. People just don't watch basketball. Maybe they're trolling. I'm not sure what it is. Wednesday, it was clear as day. The Hawks had a huge plus-minus when he was on the court. The Hawks were winning when he left the game. They lost because the third unit lost the game to Charlotte. The same thing happened tonight. Trae was plus 16, and again, they lost by 3. When Trae was on the court in this game, they were soundly outplaying a 56-win team. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be happening moving forward. The Wolves are better than the Hawks, but they were not tonight. Like, when Trae played, when the real guys played, especially Trae, and really only Trae, they were better. They just were than Minnesota. 19 points, 7 assists for Trae in 27 minutes. He was 3 of 5 on twos, 3 of 7 on threes. Looks good. I mean, obviously, he's still favoring the hand a little bit. He talks about that a lot on Wednesday night post-game in Atlanta, but looks the part, looks comfortable. I will be interested to see, not only on Trae, but like who plays and who doesn't. Now, a lot of teams could just pull everybody and not play anybody in their finale game. Again, the game doesn't matter at all. It's on the road. It's an early game. It's a 1 o'clock start in Indiana on Sunday. Great time to kind of play no one. But the Hawks currently have 5 guys who were out tonight with injury. 3 of them are out for the year. Bay, Johnson, and Okongwu. Lundy has an injury. He's been out for a while with the ankle. Wes Matthews, I don't know if he's hurt or just kind of old guy hurt right now with a hamstring. But let's just say they have 5 guys out tonight, plus Windler. That's 6 who are not available tonight. That leaves you with 12 players. If you suddenly want to rest all your starters, you're down to 7. You can't really do that. So somebody's got to play, you would guess, on Sunday. But I would say some combination, if I had to guess, of Trae, DeJounte, Clint, DeAndre, and Bogey, which is their starters tonight, but their top 5 remaining players. The 5 guys they have left that were in their top 8 to begin the season, they're not out for the season, basically, or at least close to it. I would rest as many of those guys as you possibly can on Sunday for me without, making it impossible to play the game. Trae might want to play because he's got to have, obviously he's out for so long. He might want to have some more reps, but anybody with anything nagging, like DeJounte's been on the injury report a lot recently. Capela's been playing a lot recently. I know it's hard to sit Clint right now because they only have 2 centers, but Mo Gay could play center on Sunday. It wouldn't be a big deal. Bogey's played a lot of minutes this year. Hunter just sat a game. So we'll see who plays and who doesn't on Sunday, but it will not be a full-on 48-minute performance. At the very least, I would expect the Hawks to do a similar thing that they did on Wednesday and on Friday tonight, playing for 2.5, 3 quarters at the absolute most of all their guys. And then you'll see a lot of AJ, you'll see a lot of Mo Gay, you'll see a lot of Buffkin, and even Trent Forrest and Krejci, etc. in that game, if I had to guess, on Sunday. Anyway, I just said this, but the finale is on Sunday afternoon. That's game 82. Then, of course, the Hawks will have some time. At least they will have 2 full days. I don't know if they're going to come back to Atlanta in between. Like, they're going from Indianapolis to Chicago, but with 2.5 days in between, they probably come home. But anyway, the game is going to be in Chicago. That is done. It is sealed. The NBA has not announced this yet, but I have heard from a good source that it's going to be on Wednesday. That's the way it was always going to be. And right now, by the way, our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook have a line on the game. They actually make the Bulls a 3.5-point favorite. That's essentially saying that the Bulls and Hawks are of similar team quality, and Chicago gets the bump for home court advantage. Of course, the Bulls are healthier probably than the Hawks are right now, considering the absence of Jalen and Aneka. The Bulls have some injuries too, but we'll get much more on that, I promise you, between now and Wednesday. So stay tuned for all of that. I will have a show after the game on Sunday, maybe an emergency podcast between now and then. But even if something happens with Veet on Saturday, I probably will take the day off. I've been doing a lot of podcasting. So I'll have a wrap-up on Sunday, and then I'll have some preview content between the game on Sunday and the game on Wednesday. And then if they keep moving on from there, by the way, there are 4 potential opponents for the Hawks on Friday. Next Friday, I should say, if they win on Wednesday. That's a long way from now, but Orlando, Indiana, Philly, and Miami are all still eligible to be in the play-in. We'll see between now and then. So anyway, please subscribe to the podcast. If you're a listener to the podcast on a regular basis, first of all, thank you for doing that. Second of all, I hope you are subscribed. And if you're not, go ahead and do that across podcast platforms. In fact, the best possible way to support the show is to go ahead and subscribe multiple times across multiple platforms, whether it be Apple or Spotify or YouTube. Download the show, auto-download the show if you want to just definitely make my day. Go ahead and do that. Also, help us to spread the word about the podcast. If you know a Hawks fan, friend, or family member in your life that has not found us yet, please share this podcast with them. Ratings and reviews appreciated as well. Follow the show on Twitter /X at Locked On Hawks. I'm also on there at BT Rowland. Also, I write about the Hawks and share audio and other kinds of stuff on the Braves. I do some Atlanta sports independent work at patreon.com/BT Rowland. If you want to follow and do some extra stuff there, I would appreciate that as well. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you at the very latest after the game on Sunday afternoon.